Now, this is the 3rd of December, 2020, which means that we haven't broadcast in the last 24 hours. That is, we didn't do a Kudilar campaign, world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street on the Wednesday, the 2nd of December, 2020. 2nd of December, the date, not the day, but the date is significant. And we shall be making up for the absence of a broadcast on that date, because we shall be focusing adequately during today, 3rd of December, 2020, on the campaign that I launched in 1973 against the Sunday Times. And we then called it, or used to call it, the Color Supplement or Color Magazine. And I think that the decision was made mainly in response to the unfamiliarity of most of the people affected by the contents and the publication of the item on the Sunday Times Color Supplement called The World Beyond the Curtains, because the majority of the people, the Siloti speaking people in Tower Hamlets and in the rest of the UK, who were the target of a malign attack on the community, identified in that piece as Sylhetis who ate banana plants. That was on the 2nd of December 1973, and it was a Sunday. Of course, the Sunday Times Color Supplement. Nobody had read that article. Nobody that I spoke to or I had known by then in the community at all. I read that article in the morning of Sunday, the 2nd of December, 1973, as per usual, because I had been reading the papers first thing in the morning every day for a very long time already. And when I read that article in the Color Supplement, the supplements are normally not read by people interested in studying or examining the political news or contents first thing. In fact, the contents of a magazine, unless it is highly promoted in accompanying advertisements by the publisher, supplements are not read as urgently or as immediately as newspapers that they come with. So the fact that I read that showed that I was reading not only the papers, but also the magazines. And my first conversation on that morning was with my childhood friend, campaigning friend, and in rank order, a cousin of my mother. And he sadly passed away, but he was my childhood kind of co-campaigner. In age, he was younger than me, but we did a lot of campaigns in the village. So the spirit of the campaign was kind of continued on Sunday, the 2nd of December, 1973. When I contacted him and he was living in a street off the Cannon Street Road. That street is now abolished and has been kind of merged into another street that is the Rampart Street. And it was called Kinda Street. The pronunciation was Kinda. The spelling was Kinda. So they used to live in 69, I think, Kinder Street. And that was off the Cannon Street Road. Either I went there because it was not far from New Road, which is the opposite side of Cannon Street Road in Stepney E1, or he came to meet me as a weekend kind of regular, because he used to work during the week and probably up to Saturday as well. Can't remember whether he did work on Saturdays, but so he came, I think, and we discussed the contents of the color supplement in the Sunday Times, and on the 2nd of December 1973, and he was absolutely physically trembling with rage. When I explained to him what the Sunday Times contents said and implied, and he understood the implication, he was literally seething with rage. Well, I was seething, but I was already familiar with a similar kind of attacks on Silotes. And I had to take an immediate kind of plan. And I suggested that we did translate the article into Siloti using the Bangladeshi script, and we distributed it in the community. And then we started the campaign against this defamation of the whole community. So we shall be coming to that later, this edition. And what happened was that this is now, 47 years, calendar years. 47 calendar years coming into the 48th. Now today is the 48th year since the Sunday Times color supplement attack on the Silotes and on Brick Lane and on Whitechapel and on the actual, very centrally, why my uncle was seething and enraged was that he remembered it wasn't even 2 years, it was just 1 year plus since he took part during 1971 in support of the Bangladesh independence or separation from Pakistan. So in that article, they said, among the things that they accused the Silotes of doing, they claimed that the Silotes in Tower Hamlets in East London in Brick Lane were reluctant to support Bangladesh and the cause. There were East Pakistanis at the time, the whole of Bangladesh today, the people were East Pakistanis until December 1971. So December 1971 was 16th of December when the kind of name Bangladesh became official, so let's say, starting with India recognizing. And the only one December kind of passed in the next year, 72. And in 73, it was before the 2 years completed on the 16th of December 1973, the Sunday Times color supplement mounted an attack on the Silotes. They didn't attack the Bangladeshis as a whole. They attacked the Silotes. and it's a targeted attack. And so it's 48th year now. And so the 5 decades since I started the campaign. And it took up the best part of 2 years of my life. Quite apart from other things, the usual daily things. And 5 decades on, there has been no one from any part of the Bangladeshi community anywhere who has recognized the work that was done, and I did, and I organized about maybe 4 or 5 other people. And eventually, I ended up spending kind of time in a mysteriously hired minicab, going through all the known addresses of Siloti-speaking persons running businesses in London. And then we went to several parts outside of London and visited restaurants and some individual addresses that were available or could be found of Silotis living in the Midlands and other places. And it is absolutely more comprehensive attack on the Silotis than any attacks that the so-called Bengali language movement kind of supporters claim were made on the Bengali language in 1948. Now, this is very important. And the importance, of course, is based on the contents and the role and the timing and the purpose why they decided to mount that attack on the Silotis, but also because in the last 50 years, let's say, 48, 50 years, there have been several other comments made by Bengalis against Siloti people, Siloti language. So this is something that somebody called Ted Jory, who is kind of styles himself in surreptitious posts on the internet as a journalist of stature. That word he uses. And Ted Jory's stature is entirely fabricated when it comes to the understanding of the Bangladeshis in Tower Hamlets and the history of the community in Tower Hamlets. Because Ted Jory contacted me in December, just like this week, December 2005. He sent me an email introducing himself as a just then newly joined staff member on the then East London Idiotizer. I call it Idiotizer. I had been calling it Idiotizer for a number of years, long before Ted Jory started as a journalist. I had a row with a man in September 2012 about Ted Jory and how long he had been in Tower Hamlets. This man was later defended, a year later defended to me by an aggressive person who claimed that my row with that man was unjustified because that man, was a trade unionist. That sums up the stupidity of the racists who insist on having superior knowledge about things that they don't really have superior knowledge on. That man said repeatedly that Ted Jory had been a long-standing journalist in Tower Hamlets. He hadn't been. Jory only appeared in December 2005, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm the one who he wrote to, he contacted, introducing himself, not to that man. And I have been spending more time studying, examining, diagnosing newspapers than this so-called trade unionist had been alive for the number of years alive. I mean, this is completely typical racist, idiotic attack on admitted, demonstrable, objectively demonstrable evidence that I was relying on. The person who attacked me is on the record as having shown a different kind of attitude before. But she came across as a racist, supporting a racist on that occasion, on that one. And she said that because I had told off that racist man, she stopped talking to me. That is the emotional attachment that she had with a racist. And this happened in front of her and her partner, both of whom had been in the Tower Hamlets Bethnal Green and Bow Labour Party General Management Committee with me over a number of years. And they never, ever supported me on any issue. And everything I refer to as issue has been vindicated. They have been exposed as having kind of wrongly backed Lutfur Rahman. Against my advice, I said that that was wrong to promote Lutfur Rahman as a Bangladeshi or as an ethnicity kind of factor. And when Lutfur Rahman was the subject of many allegations, including a large number that were substantiated, these two failed to state why they had supported him and had not spoken out against the corruption and other abuse that Lutfur Rahman engaged in. And I said this today, they haven't done this today either, up to this date either. Lutfur Rahman was never known as a politically conscientious or knowledgeable person concerned about the need for democracy and democracy as practiced by the local council and the local Labour Party members. He never had been. He never has been. So these two are among the people that I think of when I refer to white left, so-called left kind of leaning or left-styled racists. One of these two dismissed my assertion in 2010 when they were going to Bethnal Green Road to take a picture of Ken Livingstone doing a walkabout with Lutfur Rahman. And I clearly told him at the front of the address in Brick Lane, 164 Brick Lane, I said, you should not dismiss the importance of what I'm telling you in favor of going and taking a picture of Ken Livingstone. I am more important than Ken Livingstone in this context. He obviously didn't agree with me. And he and his partner have got quite a few pictures that took of me, and they haven't given me the pictures. And they've got other data. They videoed me at a meeting in the Whitechapel area, the secondary school in Whitechapel. So these are people that are not behaving according to the law, according to the ethics and morality. I don't owe them anything, and I never sought to have any kind of close connection with them. It was just incidental meeting as members of the Labour Party. And they pretended to be against corruption in the Labour Party. But they turned out to be regular appearees in support of Luthu Rahman and his corrupt regime. Let them deny it. Let them write it. Let them broadcast it. And I shall follow up accordingly. I care very much about democracy. Not just in Tower Hamlets, not just in Labour Party, not just in the Labour Party, but generally as well. Let them show what they have given up in order to stand against crooks, criminals, and racists. They cannot compete. There is no comparison. So Ted Jury doesn't understand Tower Hamlets, and he doesn't even know what the Sunday Times did. So Ted Jury instead refers to a bogus relation he has established with allegedly Siloti-speaking people. And he uses his relationship, which is nothing to do with society or politics, and I'll come to that in a minute a bit more. It is not evidence of any knowledge by any of his so-called relatives. They haven't got the knowledge. They have not got the knowledge, they haven't got the record, they haven't got the evidence. So Ted Jury praises this very attacker of the Siloti community. And Ted Jury, instead of talking about Tower Hamlets and the Bangladeshis in the UK and the Silotis, he retails completely corrupt and stupid, insulting references to certify that anti-Siloti criminal and parasite based on spin that he claims were manufactured in Bangladesh. Ted Jury doesn't even know what the Purbodesh was. The weekly Purbodesh became a daily Purbodesh, and in an edition in January 1970, Ted Jury probably wasn't even out of primary school at that time. In January 1970, the Purbodesh published a named article by Abdul Ghaffar Chaudhry, which condemned the authoritarian, anti-democratic leadership of Sheikh Mujib. That is in print, 1970, January. Now, how can this same person be allowed to claim credit for being the most regular confidant into whom Sheikh Mujib confided so much of exclusive insights and whatever? Abdul Ghaffar Chaudhry was not close to Sheikh Mujib at all, as that piece in the Purvodaya shows. Abdul Ghaffar Chaudhry is a professional parasite who worked for Akram Khan, and he worked for the Ittifaq of Manik Mia. There were two day and night kind of politically. And the reason why he was happy to work for Akram Khan and happy to write against Akram Khan's political rivals or journalistic rivals like the Ittifaq was money. Abdul Ghaffar Chaudhry's record is based on his readiness to write whoever pays him enough or the higher rate. So he wrote for Akram Khan in the Azad, and when Manik Mia gave him a slightly kind of better kind of amount of money for writing, he switched to writing for Manik Mia and Ittifaq. And while writing the pieces for Akram Khan, he condemned Manik Mia and the Ittifaq. And when he started writing for the Ittifaq and Manik Mia, he started condemning Azad and Akram Khan. And there was this piece about the editor at the time called Akhtar Farooq, a man from Borishal. Akhtar Farooq and Gaddar Chaudhry. I call him Gaddar Chaudhry because he is a complete traitor. He claims to be an honorable person with principles, but he betrayed Sheikh Mujib. And posthumously, he has been exploiting Sheikh Mujib. So he's a parasite who has no principles. And he knew his fellow Borishali, Akhtar Farooq. So he wrote addressing Akhtar Farooq in a piece, either while he was at the Azad or while he started with Ittifaq, and called him dear, very dark-skinned man. That is the interpretation I'm making for those who are viewing this in English. Because he said, Priya Kala Munshi. Now, Munshi is a writer and a kind of, and Kala is black, but it's not black in the kind of neutral sense as a color. Black is a derogatory word he was using there. And in the context of the time and the language and everything, he was kind of abusing the target, Akhtar Farooq. And he called him dear, dark-skinned man. That is the interpretation. So we shall be talking about Ted Jory and how evidentially, item by item, piece by piece, Ted Jory has been creating his stature as a liar, as a peddler of lies. And Ted Jury is part of the kind of list of liars that are demonstrably kind of citable as liars on organs in Fleet Street. Jury operated only through the Beaverbrook corrupt, crooked, racist Daily and Sunday Express. And Ted Jury, like Leslie Garner in 1973 in the Sunday Times color supplement, attacks on Silotes. These are two of the examples of racist liars operating through the Fleet Street that have no right to expect their stature to be allowed to be compared with being neutral, let alone informed. And we shall be talking more about Ted Jury and Leslie Garner in due course. Now, this edition of the Times today, Thursday, the 3rd of December, contains a few small-sized items, or small-length items, and of course, being the Times and being a supporter of the regime fronted by Boris Johnson, the Times is not going to be rigorous and is not going to tell the truth. But what happens is that the Times, like the Guardian and the others, including Boris Graf, kind of let slip, as if by accident, ingredients of the truth of the matter. Most of their coverage is lies, but sometimes they kind of contain accidentally the germs and the contents of the truth. And I say that because of the short piece they have, which I treat as a kind of follow-up on the divorce battle between the former Soviet kind of Union billionaire. Now he's still a billionaire, I suppose. Akhmedov. Now the Akhmedov suggests a Muslim kind of name. Distorted, of course, but it is a Muslim kind of name, Ahmed. It's a version, the spelling is a version of the Muslim Arabic Ahmed, a form of Muhammad. Now, this is a piece on page 21 of the Times, and it is headlined, "Billionaire's Son Told to Return or Face Prison." Return meaning return to the UK. The Russian billionaire's son, who is now in one of the Gulf states, we shall find out in a minute. The son of a Russian oligarch has been threatened with jail if he fails to travel from Moscow to London to face claims that he helped his father to avoid paying his mother a 450 million divorce settlement. Timur Ahmedov was accused this week of being his father's lieutenant in a long-running fight between Farhad Ahmedov. So it's Farhad is also a version of the word that is more commonly known as Farhad in Persian, probably in Arabic as well, but definitely Persian. So this is either connected with the Turkish kind of name, nomenclature, spelling, which is somewhere in the kind of Turkish-linked parts of the former Soviet Union, Chechnya perhaps. And so this Ahmedov, Farhad Ahmedov, 65, a tycoon understood to be close to President Putin, and Tatiana Ahmedova, that's the feminine of the Ahmedov. Mr. Ahmedov's, this Timur Ahmedov, that is, the Timur is spelled with T-E-M-U-R. So that's again a slight kind of one-digit departure from the normal kind of spelling that we are used to in the nomenclature across the subcontinent. And of course, it is connected with a man called Timur Lane, Timur Long. And we shall come to the Mughals and the period of Muslim so-called rule across the subcontinent, lasting about 700 years. The financier, Mr. Ahmedov, this 27-year-old son, that is, a city trader, told the court over a video link yesterday that he had been drinking a lot under the stress of the case. Mrs. Justice Knowles, sitting in the High Court, ordered him to return to appear in court or face contempt proceedings. Now, this is an example. This is an example, although it might have been a case started before, or the divorce dispute between the Ahmedov and his wife Tatiana may have begun, the dispute, this kind of disagreement, may have begun before David Neuberger spoke in January 2017 about the London post-Brexit, London becoming the center of lucrative dispute resolution from the outside world. This is the kind of example that can be cited to relate to what David Neuberger must have been thinking about. He may or may not have been involved as a judge at any stage about any proceeding by Farhad Ahmedov and or his wife Tatiana, but he must have been aware of similar kind of episodes started by people who are not from Britain but from other countries. And at the weekend, I think in the Sunday Times version of the update of this case referred to a thing called divorce tourism. So divorce tourism predates the Brexit and predates this case. The phrase divorce tourism has been used before. So David Neuberger must have been aware of what was meant even as early as 10 years ago about divorce tourism. Now, This is the reason I'm examining this one and continuing to update on it, is the role of the corrupt judiciary that I have been talking about before. Now, this case only concerns 450 or 430 million pounds divorce settlement. The organizations and I personally have claims exceeding billions against criminals, wrongdoers, and breakers of contracts. And I'm still battling to get the High Court to start hearing my claims. And I've got other claims against the tribunal system, which is run by criminals and racists. Now, this Mrs. Justice Knowles, she would not be treating my claims in the same way. So it's nothing to do with the merit and the actual solidity of the foundation of my claims or the claims. It is to do with the income. Number one. Number two is the racism. Because to the criminals defined in common law as criminals who are sitting as judges in the court system and the court bureaucracy, who are discriminating every time against a person based on racism. And in the last 30 years, based on that faith, the Muslim, because as I say 30 years, because I date that from the mounting by using Saitan Rushdie and his so-called book as the trigger to create a confrontation with the Muslim as part of the agenda, warmongering agenda, new imperialist agenda. That is the time when they started. And it must have been not exclusively or solely connected with the events in Iran, where the American kind of agent was overthrown by the so-called Islamic revolution. It wasn't Islamic really. It was more against the repression and criminality that the Shah of Iran represented. And the people who claim to be Islamic are only another political kind of grouping or bloc who have so far successfully retained control over Iran for just over 30 years. And the reason why Saitan Rushdie was launched via the mainstream media in the West and America was in order partly to counter the Iranians' overthrow of the American stooge and American agenda. Now, the anti-Muslim kind of hatred by the judiciary in this country is not something that has been discussed by anyone that I can find any record of. So this is another reminder for those who are viewing this program for the first time, why it is called world exclusive, because there is nobody No outfit, no commentator, no channel doing this particular collection of narrative and analysis. So when the Sayyid Rushdie was launched, they infected the media and the gullibles' minds with a number of stereotypes against Muslims. And the judiciary had already been anti-Muslim, obviously, but the reinforcement of anti-Muslim kind of contempt, hostility, hatred, obstruction, denial, blacklisting. Blacklisting is used as a word to express the effect. If I use proscribed, most people would not understand the word proscribe because it's confusingly similar to prescribe. It's not that at all. So blacklisting is being used technically, strictly speaking, technically as a word that conveys the effect of what is called blacklisting. So the Times has got this piece about the Ahmedovs and the Ahmedovas and Mrs. Justice Knowles, as I said, would not treat my claims against the particular three parties of liars and crooks and thieves anywhere near the way she has been reportedly treating this matter and these claimants and these litigants. If she can say, as she has said, according to this piece in the Times yesterday, she said yesterday, reported in the Times today, that Timur Ahmedov would be sent to jail if he doesn't comply with the order. If she can say that, then she can say that only about a claim not more than $550 million or pounds. Whereas my claims, if Mrs. Justice Knowles' assertions and statement against this Timur Ahmedov were to be applied to my case, then she would have to say at least 50 criminals and wrongdoers should be sent to jail for what they have done in connection with and by carrying out the attack on the Kitten's house in Brick Lane. Because the ramifications, the impacts have been continuing to expand and increase every day as they are doing this time today. We shall come to the Ahmedovs, David Neuberger, and the criminality that is in the sense of corruption and racism of the English judicial bureaucracy. We shall come to that in due course. Back to today's papers and the Murdoch Times, we have had a look. We shall look more on that one. And this is the Murdoch scum, that is son, which is boasting UK first to get vaccine. This is Brexiteering, boasting, stupidity. It's like playing a game in a children's playground. And they're attacking the virus as if it were an immigrant trying to cross the channel. It says, COVID, you are about to get a hell of a beating. If they could beat the virus, by Brexiteering slogans, they would have done so by now. And that idea, that outlook, that attitude, the mindset that treats the virus as if it were a kind of migrant gives their stupidity away and the unfitness away and the dishonesty away. And there is this contradiction these stupid morons have got in the scum, page 8. They're saying that Johnson has been warned not to sell out the north of England in a Brexit deal. Now that is stupid, because otherwise, in their general narrative, it would be impossible to even imagine that Johnson would be doing anything against Brexit. And they're saying that he is about to. And then they're boasting in an editorial, which they're calling world beaters about the vaccine on the pandemic. Now, it is so stupid, the Murdoch scum. They've got this. I mean, how can this headline be printed? It says, cameras couldn't show me doing a Mylene class in bikini. I bathed naked. Now, how can that be in the newspaper? And Mylene class apparently did that in a bikini when she appeared in 2006. And there, almost every day, the scum and the others like the Star and even the Daily Mail, almost every week they are looking for an excuse to run that image, because it's a cloth-like bikini wearing Mylene class, but it is very much a display of a woman's body in the way that this scum has made millions by kind of exploiting. Now, Jessica Plummer is saying that her naked bathing couldn't be shown on the camera. Of course it couldn't. And Rod Liddle, in the criminally dishonest and racist scum, supporting Priti Patel. And the most stupidest headline, Priti Patel wants rid of criminals. I'd bet majority back her. What a stupid headline and a piece. Because over the last 10 years, or even longer, policing in London and in the other parts of the country has been kind of reduced. The policing work or the policing service that the people have been kind of expecting for a long time from the police to protect them, to investigate actual crimes. The police have been changing the law by cutting the list of crimes. So Rod Liddle is completely stupid to make the assumption that the police will be doing the necessary action against criminals. They won't. They don't. And crime has become a propaganda tool for the gullibles to be fed lies by the conservatives and by the scum and by the racists. We shall be continuing.